places and hearing their stories, I was able to get into their world and understand where they were coming from, and also be deeply inspired by the way that they would share, first off, these terrible things. Do you think if you had your child molested and killed that you'd want to be talking about that to the next reporter? No, probably not. But the way they communicated to me, and they an absence of hatred. Like, honestly, I can honestly say that of all the Palestinians that I've met, even like I haven't now been for several years, but even now, they would live side by side with Jews if they were able to do so, with everyone being treated equal under the law. And they did. For anyone who knows true history, it was the Palestinians who took them in when they weren't being taken in elsewhere. And Europe was saying, get the fuck out.
As a Jewish person, like, I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel my entire life. You know,
yeah.
They never tell you that. Oh, by the way, there were people there. They make it seem like it was just like they're sitting there. It was the fucking doors open.
Hours for the taking.
Yeah, like it literally, they forget to include the fact to every young Jewish person, basically, like, oh, by the way, there were people there.
Well, they just want to make sure that you are frightened of your own survival to the point where when you get old enough, you will make sure that that money goes to Israel and that trees are planted and that you always speak highly of Israel and Israel must survive no matter what.
Yeah, and I don't understand it at all.
Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid, like her dad, Mohammed, like his family literally welcomed in some Jewish immigrants, and then those people fucking like threw them out of their own home at gunpoint and they became refugees. Like, that's how he ended up in America.
When a ship came from Poland with refugees from Jewish refugees from Poland and Germany, whatever, and they went to several countries first, went to America, and then went to Cuba, and they wouldn't let them off, so they came to Haifa. My parents and some families went down to Safed, and they picked up some Jewish families from, to them they were refugees, and they had a banner on the side of their boat saying, we lost our homes in Germany and our hope. Can you don't let us our hope here in your country? So, and they took them, they took two families, each took two families, and others did, and they brought them to our house, to my father's house. And they lived with us for 2.5 years, and my mother went to Nazareth, to her parents' house, or grandfather's house, wherever they're called their home. And I was 9 days old when she came back to Safed to take me inside our home. And we were locked out.
Anytime you criticize it, it's like it's anti-Semitic. And it's just like, this is such a fucking bullshit word. They're not even Semites. Like 80% of the people that are in Palestine actually have ancient Hebrew DNA, which makes them a Semite. Most of these fucking Jews that are over there are Eastern European Jews and have no fucking actual Hebrew DNA, which is why it is illegal to fucking test DNA in fucking Israel.
I'm about to show you something extremely controversial. It's even illegal in the state of Israel to obtain this. And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. But according to Israeli law, the fact that I have Jewish blood gives me more right to somebody's home and land in the land of Palestine than somebody that has been there for hundreds of years. Doesn't make sense.
98% of the people in Israel have no Hebrew DNA. The Palestinians have Hebrew DNA. They're the original people from there, and they're not even Semites. I mean, everything they say is backwards. You're not a race, so you're saying this is our homeland. Well, okay, if it's a religious homeland, then it's also the homeland of the Christians and the Muslims as well. Jerusalem is where it all started. All Abrahamic religions come from there. So why are you guys singled out? Well, because we're God's chosen people. No, it was the people who chose God, which were not called Jews. They were called Israelites, which has nothing to do with a block of land in Palestine.
You know, when you start labeling these things as like anti-Semitic, it's like, wait, so being anti-genocide is anti-Semitic? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, wait, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, what are you talking about?
You don't support mass murder, you're an anti-Semite of the worst order.
Yeah, it's like, so anything that Israel does is okay, and if you criticize it's anti-Semitic, that's just like crazy talk. That's like literally like what the fucking worst dictators enact before they go commit fucking heinous crimes. Is like, you can't fucking criticize us. You know what I mean? Like, that's the first thing they do. It's the first thing the Bolsheviks did, first thing fucking Stalin did, first thing Mao did. You know what I mean? Like, all these dictators that go out and do fucked up things, the first thing that they do is make it illegal to criticize them. And so what are they trying to do in the fucking US? They're trying to make it illegal to criticize Israel. I don't know, maybe they already did. They like definitely like tried to pass some legislation.
I mean, Ron DeSantis passed legislation in Israel for the Sunshine State of Florida, making anti-Semitic speech illegal.
Yeah, which is fucking crazy. Just absolutely fucking crazy. And then they were gonna like try and put like anything against Israel under that umbrella of like anti-Semitism, which is fucking absurd. Like, you can criticize the US government all you want, but if you criticize Israel, like, we're gonna fucking throw you in jail. Like, that's craziness. Like,
well, so basically what you've just said is that means by de facto, Benjamin Netanyahu is the president of the United States and his government now reigns over ours.
I mean, clearly, when you look at who you can't criticize, and that's who controls you.
Today, the Jews rule this world by proxy. They get others to fight and die for them. They invented socialism, communism, human rights, and democracy so that persecuting them would appear to be wrong, so they may enjoy equal rights with others. With these, they have now gained control of the most powerful countries.
This is something that has to be addressed. This is the consequences of what happens when we don't stand for righteousness. God, right now, would you protect the nation of Israel and protect those of us, not just our church, but every church in the world and in this nation that's willing to put their neck on the line and say, we stand with them.
These people are not real Christians, a lot of these evangelists, and they're always Israel, 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 God's chosen people. This has been put into people's minds since birth in the United States, and they cannot separate that.
Our greatest allies should not be fucking extorting our politicians. They should not be blackmailing us. They should not be conducting false flag fucking attacks. Like, it's crazy. Like, we literally should be at war with fucking Israel 100 times over, and instead we're just sending them money, and it's fucking craziness. Like, it's absolute craziness when you look into this. And then you got all of our fucking congressmen like up there like, you know, fucking clapping like fucking idiot seals, like, for this guy's stupid fucking speech. This is a convicted goddamn war criminal conducting fucking genocide currently, sucking money out of our economy, providing us zero fucking benefit. And they always like say, oh, well, you know, they give us intelligence. Like, oh yeah, fucking intelligence? Like, how about when Netanyahu testified in front of fucking Congress that, you know, Iraq had weapons of mass destruction?
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever. And there is no question that once he acquires it, history shifts immediately. If you look at those who harbor terrorists and those who support terrorists,
I guess I was looking for a connection between September 11th and my understanding why we went to the Taliban is there was a connection there. They were harboring somebody that we believed did the act on September 11th.
Yes, that's the first reason why you did it.
Now you're going to take me from September 11th to Iraq somehow?
And he lied to Congress. And the intelligence that we used to take this country to war in Iraq and the Middle East was based off of intelligence from Israel, by the way. Israeli intelligence formed the bulk of the motivation behind these Middle Eastern wars.
In the days after the September attacks, there were countless rumors about strange coincidences surrounding the events. One report about a group of Middle Eastern men spotted the morning of September 11th parked just across the river from New York City has not gone away.
3, 2, 1.
Investigation of their presence has led to questions about whether Israel was conducting espionage on U.S. soil.
140 Israeli individuals have been arrested and detained in what government documents describe as, quote, an organized intelligence gathering operation designed to, quote, penetrate government facilities.
The FBI has now put out an APB, an all-points bulletin nationwide. They're looking for a white Chevy van. If you see this van, you're asked to contact the FBI immediately.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they are in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
This is a case that took the FBI and the CIA more than 2 months to sort out. It began when this woman was watching the Twin Towers burning from her apartment in New Jersey. She noticed 3 men on top of a van posing for pictures with the towers burning in the background.
And I could see that they were like happy. You know, they didn't look shocked to me. I thought it was very strange.
The witness called police, who stopped the van hours later and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli.
And you can see the 2 towers, a huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
Change is gonna come.
They literally had tripods set up in New Jersey, ready, waiting for the falling of the towers. I mean, look, the one thing you notice about these Talmudic agents is that time and time again, there's just too many patterns that connect and point one way. You know, whether it's Epstein and all those things stacking up perfectly, or this one, all these details stacking up perfectly, it seems to be funny that they just demand people to call it coincidental and move on. And I think people are getting fed up with the bullshit.
Then there was the strange case of Odigo. You may have heard me speaking about this in a prior episode. So Odigo, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it was an instant messaging service. It was Israel-owned, and it was operated by Israel with headquarters that were based just 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center. Now, according to Haaretz, that is an Israeli-owned publication, check out this headline, which was published September 26th. That's 15 days after the attack. 15 days after 9/11, Haaretz says that Odigo workers were warned of the attacks. It says Odigo, the instant messaging service, says that 2 of its workers received messages 2 hours before the Twin Towers attack on September 11th, predicting that the attack would happen. And the company has been cooperating with Israeli and American law enforcement, including the FBI, in trying to find the original sender of the message, which predicted the attack. I mean, seriously, what on earth are we talking about here? There were some people who definitively knew that something was going to take place on that day. Some people came camera ready.
The fact that the Jews had prior knowledge of it, the dancing Israelis that were filmed and caught and went away and said they were there to document the event.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
There was a cell, one of these cells, across the Hudson River. And they got on this is the report. I emphasize, I don't know this for a fact, but there's several witnesses who say this happened. They got on the roof of the building to look across. They knew what was going to happen. Yeah. They were waiting for it to happen, and when it happened, they celebrated. They jumped for joy.
A major terrorist manhunt began, and just 6 hours after the attack, the van was stopped at a roadblock by patrolman Scott DiCarlo.
We were asked to detain the van and the passengers. They were just removed from the vehicle, patted down for safety precaution, and detained.
911 call at 410 Park.
I think once the FBI arrived, one of them stated that they were on our side. So there's something to that effect.
The police actually would not investigate. They said that they have nothing to do with that. And so it seems that they are, within their own communities, a protected class of citizen, which explains why they would get away dancing in the street on one of the most damning days in American history. Just look at their behavior. Certainly, this was something that they wanted. They celebrated it.
Benjamin Netanyahu said in a book in the 1990s that if we don't see the threat of militant Islam, then pretty soon militant Islam will bring down the World Trade Center.
The West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
Nice prediction there, just a bit of psychic, was he? You know, like Israel did 9/11. It's got Israeli fingerprints all over it. And with any of that sort of stuff, you just got to say, you know, Q bono, who benefits? And the only people who benefited from 9/11 is Israel, and even Benjamin Netanyahu said that as well. So the one thing we are benefiting from at the moment is the attack on the World Trade Center.
Netanyahu said, quote, "We're benefiting from one thing, and that is the attack on the Twin Towers and Pentagon and the American struggle in Iraq."
I mean, they do these false flag attacks all the time. How much evidence do people need? And what would be the benefit for the Arab world blowing up Twin Towers? I mean, how have they benefited from this? Have a look at Iraq. Have a look at what we've done to the Arab world since that event happened. And look what Israel has got from that event happening, and ask yourself, who benefits?
Oh my God. Yeah, but then that side exploded. How did that side explode? It blew up. It's minutes ago. Way after that one.
Well, there's one thing for sure if you look into 9/11, and that is every single thing the mainstream media and the government said about it is actually impossible. It's the craziest conspiracy theory ever. That a guy in a cave in Afghanistan blew up 3 towers in New York with 2 planes, which is impossible. And they all fell at free fall speed, which is not possible without controlled demolitions. They took lots of photos and pictures of themselves. There was the dancing Israelis dancing afterwards. The involvement is quite clear, and what's most clear is that the official narrative for it is all lies, absolutely all lies.
It was those who had the access, the ability to carry off what is an extraordinary operation. I mean, you're talking 4 different locations, 3 different buildings taken out, well, more actually. You have to have one hell of a lot of resources to even think to do something like this. So who would have had an opportunity to possibly bring down those buildings? Well, maybe the people who control the buildings, and who is that?
The American government rounded up 200 Israeli operatives after 9/11, during their 9/11 sweep operation, and deported them back to Israel. The Israelis invented modern terrorism, they admit it. That's what they used to oust the British from Palestine and take over Israel in 1948, and they've been doing it ever since. But they learned early on to make it look like Arabs and Muslims did it rather than Jews.
Maybe it wasn't the dude in the cave and the 19 box cutters who had the best ability to do this. Maybe it was the U.S. military, the enemy inside the gate, and those interests that have the political, military, and media power to be able to tell us a story so that it becomes true, even though it's patently an insult.
Donald Trump is on the line.
You look at Larry Silverstein, who's a terrific owner in New York and a very good friend of mine who I just called. I was very worried about him because I assumed maybe he was in the building. He took possession of the building 1 week ago. As you know, he just bought the World Trade Center.
Right. Lo and behold, 2 Jewish billionaires buy 2 asbestos-filled buildings that are half empty, of which the Port Authority was attempting to get out from under the liability and debt associated with these worthless buildings. 2 Jewish billionaires named Frank Lowy and Larry Silverstein buy these buildings, and the fact is, the literal, truthful, undeniable fact is that when they purchased the lease on the Twin Towers, they literally transferred billions of dollars of liability over to themselves, because the cost to extract the asbestos was in the billions. So you've got half-empty buildings with a precedent already of